Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gloriana, and today I wanted to make a video on the importance of habits. In my last video, I did a little introduction about myself, telling you guys about my story and what led me to really want to change my life for the better. And I just wanted to slowly share with you some of the tools that have led me to become a happier person and more fulfilled with my life and myself. And one of the big epiphanies that I had back then, 9 years ago, was the importance of habits, which may seem to some of you like common sense, but this wasn't common to me. So this is why I want to share with you in case that is not common sense to you. I really didn't comprehend that my words, my thoughts, and my actions were dictating the life that I was living. I was really unaware of how what I did every single day amounted to my entire life. And when I got that shift of perception, everything started to change because I was able to take a step back and really decide the type of life that I wanted. My habits until then, for example, were very much all over the place and really were not aligned to the highest version of myself that I had in mind. Back then, I was a college student, and I know that a lot of college students go through a similar path of just partying, watching TV all the time, maybe not really having a set vision for what they want, because I feel like those times are very confusing, but not having direction can really lead to unhappiness, even if it is normal and normalized in society to be drinking a lot and constantly going out and constantly being with friends and never spending time alone. Those habits, little by little, can create a huge life that is not in alignment with our happiness. And so for me, becoming aware that everything I was doing was kind of like making me miserable, made me want to completely change my life. And something that I started doing back then was meditation. Until then, I had really no idea of how my mind operated. I hadn't really taken the time to understand that my thoughts were creating my reality. So I pretty much just allowed my mind to go on autopilot. I would wake up, I would go to school, and I would just pretty much try to entertain myself as often as I could. I was on my phone a lot, I was watching a lot of television, I was constantly hanging out with people, trying to distract myself from being alone and from really addressing the deeper thoughts that could come up. I would just try to shut them down essentially, so that I didn't really have to deal with the shadow aspects of myself. So I was living in ignorance, and by ignorance I mean ignoring certain aspects of myself for fear probably that they would be too painful to look at. But neglecting my mental space really made me have anxiety, feel uneasy in my own body, really have no real identity and no voice of my own. And ultimately, I did not feel like I was myself in the world. I felt like I was putting on a facade that was crumbling before me because I couldn't sustain it. And meditation really allowed me to take a deep look at how chaotic my mind was. One of the first meditations I did was that of concentrating on my breath, and it was nearly impossible to focus on my breath for 2 consecutive breaths without my mind racing and going insane. So that is one habit that I really started to incorporate in my life. I started with guided meditations because that was the easiest thing to do, and if you don't meditate, I really encourage you to get into guided meditations because that really just gives you a space to start delving into the waters of self-knowledge, and it's something that's easier than just going in by yourself, which can sometimes be very uncomfortable. There is no shame in using a crutch in the beginning so that you can start analyzing how your mind operates. Analyzing how my mind operated really allowed me to see the beauty in me, but also the shadows in me. And the importance of that is being able to see the spectrum of who we are in that moment so that we can then decide what belongs to us from here on and what we want to discard and leave in the past. So meditation was a big one for me. Another habit that I did was journaling. Journaling was amazing. When I was little, I used to have a journal that I honestly carried with me until I was like in middle school, and sometimes in high school I would come back and kind of give an update of my life, but it wasn't something that I did on the daily. Journaling really allowed me to see my day objectively without me just thinking that it was a good day. I could see that if in the morning like I was feeling negative, it was probably because I started the day with social media, for example, and not really giving it direction. It really allowed me to see how everything in my life had a cause and an effect. And until then, I was really unaware of that. I really didn't understand that there was a law of cause and effect that was determining everything I was doing, and that I had a say in all of it. I thought everything was random, and it made me feel really afraid and insecure because I thought anything could happen to me instead of just guiding the ship. So journaling really allowed me to have a better idea of the events that were happening. I was even journaling my dreams to see how my mind was working. It was very personal, and it is not something that I would necessarily show to anyone. A journal has to be for you, but it is a place where you can do an amazing amount of growth, because when you are honest with yourself about what is happening in your inner world and your outer world, you can then start shifting things around to better fit the narrative that you want to create for yourself. Also, exercise was a huge one, because back then I was dealing with so many frustrations, so much anxiety, that having a designated time to exercise was great. It was amazing to have my body release all that tension in a productive manner. So exercise was really just a great way to unload in a healthy way that also required me to love my body, so it was just a win-win. Apart from that, my habits changed tremendously when I decided that I was not going to be drinking heavily anymore, and I was not going to be going out as much as before, because that wasn't really in alignment with the new person that I aspired to become. Because I pretty much had to visualize this person who I ideally wanted to be, and then compare my habits to that. And when I realized that this person's habits were really different from the one that I was now, everything needed to be shifted. So honestly, in the beginning, it was really difficult to break old patterns, but thankfully there was a lot of tools helping me along the way. Somewhere I read that it took 6 to 8 weeks to create a new habit, and that was really pushing me forward to go into this new lifestyle. I used to have this calendar that I would just make it myself, put every single day of the month, and then have little check marks every single day to mark all the new habits that I wanted to add into my life. And for 6 to 8 weeks, I just stuck to it. I was at least going to commit for that long. And the idea was that if that habit could stick into my life after 8 weeks, everything would just become easier, because it would just become a normal part of my routine. But the beginning is kind of like you being an addict and going against your own mind that is constantly wanting you to do something else, to be distracted, to pretty much do anything than commit to yourself. But I did start to see the fruits of those new habits in my life. I did start to experience a transformation within me, because I was trying so hard with the little amount of willpower that I had. I was pushing myself, and it wasn't easy, because a lot of people around me didn't really understand that this wasn't a personal attack towards them. It was a transformation that I myself had to go through, because there was no other way that I could live my life anymore. I just really did not want to be the person I was anymore, because I had known myself a long time ago. When I was younger, I knew the type of person that I could be, because I remembered how pure and how beautiful my personality was as a younger girl. And I wanted to save her and get her back. And nothing else mattered but that. And really, it took a lot of resistance because anything new requires a lot of work. But ultimately, if you know that that why is stronger than anything else around you, you can keep going. But yeah, it's not easy. So that is really what I wanted to share with you today, the importance of understanding that our habits determine the person that we are. What we do repeatedly starts to imprint in our lives. What we say repeatedly matters. That's another one that I want to talk about actually. I used to constantly be saying that I had anxiety, and I genuinely had so much anxiety all the time because that was the affirmation that I was repeating every single day. I don't even know how many times I was repeating it. It was to the point that my husband wrote to me a song called Anxiety Girl because I was saying it so often that I didn't even know. I wasn't even aware of the words that were coming out of my mouth. I would have a terrible internal dialogue. I would constantly say things like, oh, I'm ugly, or I'm not good enough, or no, I can't do it. Just constant negativity. And it was a record playing in my mind telling me that I wasn't good enough at all times. And that is another huge one that I started applying. Positive affirmations. I really started trying to talk to myself in a kinder manner. And I promise you that when you start loving yourself, starting where you are, as you are, you start seeing light in your face. It's like when you're hating on yourself, you're draining yourself from vitality. But when you start acknowledging the beautiful human being that you are, you genuinely start to become lighter and full of life. It's crazy how you can see in people's faces what they carry inside. But overall, the importance of habits is one perception shift that I will pass on to anyone that's starting, or to anyone that finds themselves confused along the journey because they have forgotten that their actions really matter. Everything that we do matters because ultimately we are an accumulation of that. So I'm gonna leave it with this awesome quote, and I'm gonna paraphrase it because I don't remember exactly how it goes, but it says, watch your thoughts for they become your words. Watch your words for they become your actions. Watch your actions for they become your habits. And watch your habits for they become your life. Thank you so much for listening to my video, and I will see you again soon. Bye.